you kidding me? This looks so cool. I'm so excited. Hi everybody, welcome back to my craft room. I am hard at work on my next big cosplay build, which is my Aloy Tenakth Dragoon cosplay from Horizon Forbidden West. And as part of that cosplay, I needed to make some bandages. So I thought that I would dedicate an entire video showing you how to make very easy, permanently wrapped cosplay bandages. It's really nice to have your bandages be permanently wrapped. On my Artemis cosplay, I did not do that, and my wrap on my arm was constantly falling down. Super annoying. So if you can just permanently sew stuff in place, it's a lot easier. In this video, I'm gonna cover how I made my legs, my gloves, and my shoes. So let's just go ahead and get started.
The first step is picking your fabric. You will want something with plenty of stretch. 2-way stretch at the very least, but 4-way is going to give you the most movement. I wanted my bandages to have some texture, so I decided to use the fabric that's used to make buttery soft leggings. It is very weird to touch. I folded my fabric, lined it up on my cutting mat, and used a rotary cutter to cut about 2-inch strips. You can absolutely do this with scissors. I just like the neat line that the rotary cutter gives. If you want your strips to be super neat and even, use a ruler as a guide when you're cutting, or draw on your cutting lines with some tailor's chalk. For this cosplay, I'm going for a very intentional homemade look, so slightly uneven strips is fine by me. Then I took everything outside. I just laid down a piece of cardboard to protect the rocks and give myself a nice flat surface to work on. Now you could do this with an airbrush, or we have airbrush at home with fabric spray paint. I even got this can on clearance. Take your fabric spray and aim the paint at the edges of the fabric. If it's a little messy, that's okay. You're just trying to give your fabric some dimension and make it look like the edges of your wraps are a little more worn and dirty. You can also change the color or even add more colors. Red for blood, black for oil or spills, whatever's gonna fit your specific character best. After that, I brought my strips back inside to fully dry. I like that there's a lot of variation between each strip. Next is making the base of your wraps. I measured the length and circumference of my leg to make a pattern. You could do a duct tape pattern if you want. I personally hate doing duct tape patterns. Then I cut that pattern out of more buttery soft legging fabric. Buttery soft is weird. It's giving pyramid scheme. Then I took my strips of painted fabric and started arranging them on the wrap base. With this method, you will either have a seam down the side or the back. Mine is going to be a side seam, but you can absolutely make this seamless. It just involves some clever wrapping and hand sewing down the bandages. Since mine are going underneath armor, I'm okay with it. Once everything is laid out, pin it all into place. Then I sewed down the sides of the wrap with a zigzag stitch just to hold it all together. Again, since these are going underneath leg armor, I was okay to have a little bit of visible stitching, so I strategically sewed down small areas of the wraps with a zigzag stitch. I'm relying a lot on the tension of the stretched fabric to keep everything in place. I used an off-white thread, which makes the stitches less visible than a bright white. Then I just stitched up the side seams using my serger, and of course, if you don't have a serger, a zigzag stitch will work just as well. And those are my leg wraps! After I tried them on, I hand tacked down any loose bandages I saw. This technique can very easily be applied for arm wraps or even a full torso. Now I'll show you how I did this for gloves. First, I made the glove pattern using the tried and true turkey hand method. These gloves are only covering the thumb, so they were even easier than usual. I traced my palm, thumb, and a little bit down my wrist, sewed along the line, and then cut the glove out. Then I flipped it inside out and ta-da! Easy glove. Now I do have to apologize because my hands wandered out of frame for a lot of the filming process, but I'll show you what I can. I essentially took my strips, sewed them into tubes, and then layered them up on my wrists and palm. It all got pinned to the base glove. To cover my thumb, I took a small piece of bandage and cut a hole in it to go around the base of my thumb, and I also made a little hat for the tip of my thumb to fully cover it up. Then I cut a thinner strip and wrapped it up my thumb. All of it got hand sewn down using whip stitches. This was very time consuming, but it conceals the stitches really well. I did my best to hide most of the stitches underneath layers of bandages. This was especially challenging on my right hand, but just go slowly so you don't stab yourself.
Now that I have my lovely leg wraps and just one glove so far, I have yet to make the other one, I need to make some shoes to go with it. I think you could approach this a couple different ways. You could either do shoe covers if you wanted to be able to reuse your shoes. I imagine myself doing a lot of traipsing through the wilderness in these, so I would like it to be like particularly sturdy. When I was looking for shoes for this cosplay, I had 3 criteria. 1, I wanted it to be able to have a zipper so I could very easily get in and out of it. 2, I wanted them to have some traction on the bottom because of the aforementioned wilderness traipsing. And 3, I wanted them to be not a lot of money because I am going to be essentially destroying them. Enter these bad boys. They were on mega clearance. I'm sure you can see why. I have some more of these strips that I spray painted, so all I really have to do is deconstruct and reconstruct with the strips. And I think it's gonna end up looking pretty good.
I started by removing the studs, fur, and laces from the shoe. The laces got replaced with elastic so I can keep the shoe fitted on my foot, but I can still get in and out of them. Then I applied clear tacky glue to the shoe and used that to stick on the bandages. I eventually remembered to use my silicone face mask spreader tool to apply the glue in a thin and even layer. This is a really great tool, and they're super cheap. I applied the bandages from the bottom to the top and made sure to keep the zipper clear from glue and fabric so I can still use it. Once everything was glued on, I used pins and clips to keep everything secure while it dried. I also crammed some scrap fabric in there so it would dry shaped to kind of foot-shaped. Once the glue dried overnight, I yanked the pins out and trimmed away any excess fabric. And that's the base of my bandage shoe. The bottom turned out a little loose, but I'm going to be securing them down with rope. If you're not securing them down with anything else, just apply more glue and use an X-Acto knife to more neatly trim the bandages. Since this is for an Aloy cosplay, I'm adding details for that cosplay on top of the shoe. And for that, I'm using jute rope. This is 1/2 inch thick rope, and I don't need it to be quite that thick for the shoe, so I'm trimming off a section and separating the 4 cords that make up the rope. As you can see, it's pretty curly, so I actually took that rope over to my iron to straighten it out. Jute is a natural fiber, so my iron is cranked up as high as it'll go. I found that spritzing it with some water really helps get all the kinks out of the rope. Then all that was left was to glue the rope to the shoes. I used hot glue for this since it solidifies quickly and it bonds well to the rope and the fabric. The rope is in a crisscross shape over top of the shoe, and then a long piece of rope was glued around the bottom to hide the edges. And with that, all my bandage pieces were done. I came out to shoot, and there's a little buddy. I'm gonna scare him, I'm so sorry.
I am really happy with how these bandages turned out. Even without an airbrush and just a cheap can of paint, they turned out really cool. I actually am hard at work on making a lot of the other stuff for Aloy right now. I'm so excited to see how it turns out. Look at this. It's not even done yet. Are you kidding? It's so cool. If you want to see how I got this really cool texture and what techniques I used, you can find me over on Instagram and TikTok for a little sneak peek. And make sure you subscribe because I will be having full videos coming out detailing how I made more of this cosplay. Good luck on making bandages. Let me know if you use this tutorial, and I'll see you next time. Bye!